Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to my channel. Hope you're fine. Well, as you remember, in our previous video, we talked about some linking words in IELTS writing, especially task 2. And today we're going to focus on more linking words, and we are going to talk about contrast, similarity, and examples, giving examples. And we're going to focus on linking words about these parts. So we'll start with contrast. If you want to talk about a contrast, there are a lot of linking words. So you can choose one or two of these linking words if you want to provide contrast about something, all right? Now, let's start with the first one. The most widely used linking word is however. However, and remember that after however, you should use comma. So let's put it into an example sentence and let's see how we can use it. The price of meat and other foodstuffs has risen. However, the amount of meat bought by consumers has remained relatively constant. So you see that in the first sentence, we talk about the rise in the price of meat, but the second sentence is something different. It's about something is constant. So we're not talking about the increase in something, all right? So we're, let's say, talking about a contrast here. So we use however. The second linking word is nevertheless. Nevertheless. It means the same as however. Let's see how we can use it in a sentence. Living standards have fallen significantly over the past couple of decades. So we have talked about fall here. Now let's see how we can use contrast here. So we write nevertheless, comma, the numbers of migrants wanting to relocate to this region have continued to soar. So we have talked about the fall in living standards, all right? But in the second sentence, we are talking about the rise in the number of migrants. So this is the contrast. And if we want to show this contrast, we use nevertheless. In Saudi Arabia, house prices have risen sharply. In contrast, in Denmark, they have fallen by a huge amount. In contrast. So you see these sentences are in task 1, academic task 1. So you see how we can use, especially when you're talking about graph, chart, pie chart, and you want to, let's say, contrast the prices of something or the amount of something. So you can use these linking words. So in contrast is another linking word that you can use. Another linking word is in sharp contrast. It's the same as in contrast, but when you're talking about the differences, that is huge. When there is a huge difference between two things, you can write in sharp contrast. Most motorists believe that the speed limit is too low. In sharp contrast, the average pedestrian thinks it is much too high. So we are talking about low and high, all right? So we say in sharp contrast. Our next linking word is in comparison, or contrastingly. In comparison or contrastingly. You can use either of them. For example, most young adults have huge hopes and ambitions for the future. Now we are talking something different here. We want to contrast here. In comparison or contrastingly, those approaching middle age often feel a sense of frustration and pointlessness. So there are two different ideas here. Those adults who have huge hopes and ambitions, all right, and those middle age who have who feel a sense of frustration and pointlessness, all right? So if we want to show this contrast between these two different, let's say, a group of people, we can write in comparison or contrastingly. Our next word, linking word, to talk about a contrast is despite. For example, despite the significant changes in weather patterns, many so-called experts will still deny the possibility of climate change. They believe that alterations in weather patterns are the result of natural phenomena. right? So despite the significant changes, so we're talking about contrast here. Our next linking word is despite the fact that. Despite the fact that. Despite the fact that most experts believe money to be a great source of motivation, some studies have indicated that in certain circumstances, employees actually work less when they are offered higher salaries. All right. Our next linking word to talk about a contrast is in spite of. In spite of major obstacles and difficulties, such as a lack of resources and discrimination, some students from poorer socioeconomic backgrounds managed to get outstanding exam results, which entitled them to attend the most prestigious universities. Despite the fact that you see that they have the same meaning, all right, and they are used to talk about a contrast. And again, we have another linking word which is similar to in spite of, and that's in spite of the fact that. So we have despite the fact that, in spite of the fact that. So let's see how we can use it in a sentence. In spite of the fact that happiness is hard to define, most people have quite a clear idea about whether they are happy or not. Our next linking word to talk about a contrast is notwithstanding. Notwithstanding. For example, the cost notwithstanding, comma. Millions visit exotic locations on holiday each year. The cost notwithstanding, comma. Millions visit exotic locations on holiday each year. So it wants to show that despite the cost, all right, despite the cost of, for example, these exotic locations, still millions of people visit these locations on holiday. All right, so notwithstanding means the same as despite, but you should be aware of the use of it. All right, so we cannot, let's say, use it in the beginning of a sentence. So we have the phrase, or we have the noun phrase, and then after that we write notwithstanding. Our next linking word to talk about a contrast is although. For example, although speeding fines have been introduced, the number of road traffic accidents has not gone down appreciably. The authorities find this quite perplexing. Remember something, if you use although, you should never use but. All right? So I've seen that a number of students, IELTS candidates, for example, they use although, then after comma, they use but. So be aware, you should never use it. Our next linking word to talk about a contrast is even though. Even though living standards have clearly risen over recent times, many people still feel quite dissatisfied with their levels of income and savings. And our last linking word to talk about a contrast is while. While there is no evidence that children who do well academically are actually happier than those who do not, parents often invest huge amounts of money to ensure that their sons and daughters succeed in school exams. Now let's see how we can talk about similarity. There are a couple of linking words we can use to talk about similarity, and the most widely used is similarly. Similarly. So let's see how we can use this. We are going to talk about two ideas that are similar. All right? So let's see. Riding a motorbike is one of the most dangerous activities which humans regularly undertake. Similarly, comma, going onto the roads on a bicycle can be fatal. Statistics suggest that a large proportion of all cyclists have had serious accidents or collisions. So you see, we talked about motorbike. And again, we are talking here about, let's say, fatal accidents by bicycles. So we are talking about two things that are similar. So we use linking word similarly. Our next linking word to talk about similarity is likewise. Likewise is the same as similarly. For example, in West Africa, the population has soared as the death rate falls, but the number of births remains high. Likewise, in the north of the continent, individuals are living longer, and the birth rate continues to be high. The consequent population surge troubles those planning for the region's future. So we are talking about the increase in population in West Africa. And there is similar trend in the north of the continent. So we are talking about two ideas that are the same. So we write likewise to talk about similarity. Our next linking word to talk about similarity is in the same way, For example, many elderly people take up a hobby, such as painting, which allows them to be creative. In the same way, younger adults enjoy dedicating their free time to crafts or music making. So we are talking about two groups of people, elderly people and younger adults who have a special or particular hobby. So we're talking about something similar, right? And we use in the same way. Our next word is equally. Equally is also used to talk about similarity between two groups of people, or anything can be, all right, which are the same. For example, governments need to take responsibility for the welfare of their citizens. Equally, they have to ensure that their country's borders are protected. So again, we're talking about something the same, similar, about, let's say, two groups of people, governments and also citizens. Our next linking word is just as importantly. Just as importantly. For example, teachers have a responsibility to ensure that their students pass exams at the end of the course. However, just as importantly, they need to inspire and stimulate the young people they teach. And our last linking word to talk about similarity is equally important. Equally important. For example, public parks and gardens play a part in providing a peaceful and calm atmosphere for locals. Equally important is their role of attracting visitors and tourists. So we are talking about public parks and gardens, all right? So they play a part in providing a peaceful environment and atmosphere, and at the same time, they attract visitors. So we are talking about two benefits, right, of public parks. So in order to connect the second sentence to the previous one, we use equally important. We are talking about similarity here. Now, let's talk about giving examples. There are a couple of linking words you can use to talk about examples when you want to provide or give examples. The most, let's say, widely used one is for example. This is what most IELTS candidates use in their writing. So we'll start with this one, for example. So let's see how we can use it in a paragraph. Government economic policy could make a real difference to those living below the poverty line. This could, in turn, increase general prosperity. Now, we are going here to give an example. For example, if the amount of taxation paid by those on lower incomes was reduced further, they would have the ability and opportunity to spend more, which would provide an overall boost to the economy. Our next linking word is for instance. For instance is also used by many IELTS candidates. Now let's see how we can use it in a sentence. Disabled people often feel discriminated against. Now we are going to provide an example. For instance, don't forget to use comma. They may find it harder to get a job. In some cases, employers are reluctant to recruit wheelchair users, blind or deaf people, or those with a mental or emotional difficulty. Our next linking word to talk about example is a case in point. A case in point. And don't forget that we should not use comma after a case in point. Now let's see how we can use it in an example. It is thought by many that allowing citizens to carry guns makes society more dangerous. A case in point is the USA, where murder rates are astonishingly high. Our next linking word is such as. We can use such as to talk about example, to provide examples. For example, many scientists, such as biologists and chemists, worry about how little the general public seems to know about their subject. Our next phrase is including. We can use including to talk about examples, or when we want to provide examples about a specific field or subject or group of people. Undergraduates, including those who attend some of the most prestigious universities. So you see that I'm talking about undergraduates. And also I want to give some examples. What do I mean by undergraduates? Including those who attend some of the most prestigious universities, seem to have very little knowledge of subjects beyond their own. Our next linking word to talk about examples is like. For example, some sports, like motor racing and boxing, are so dangerous that they should probably be banned. And our last linking word is an illustration of this. Now let's see how we can use it in a sentence. And don't forget, we should not use comma after that. In countries where citizens have the right to carry arms, the number of fatal shootings is obviously high. An illustration of this is the United States, where an extremely high number of people die each year as a result of gunshot wounds. So you see, in this video, in our previous video, we talked about so many linking words that we can use in our writing, either task 1 or task 2, and they can definitely boost our score in writing. And if you can use them correctly in your writing, you will gain good coherence and cohesion. And that is why they are considered as cohesive devices in IELTS writing. Hope you find today's lesson really helpful. Until next time, enjoy your time, stay tuned, and goodbye.